Indigenous business sector was believed to be worth more than $4.8 billion in 2018. That's according to research last year. And it's an area of the economy that is growing rapidly.
And the organisation that helps to verify and support Indigenous business is Supply Nation, which has a new CEO leading its work. Jodie Taylor is a descendant of the Warramungu people from the Northern Territory, an accomplished senior executive who's worked across the government and corporate sectors after a trailblazing career as a political reporter at the ABC in the 90s. Jodie Taylor's with us in the studio. Good morning, welcome to Weekend Breakfast.
Welcome.
Good morning, thank you so much for having me.
And back to a studio, it probably feels like a return to the past.
I was just saying it's a lot more flash today, I have to say, than when I worked here.
For anyone who's not familiar, can you give us a bit of a sense of what is Supply Nation, what do you do?
Well, Supply Nation was established back in 2009. It was really born out of a model that was set up out of the civil rights movement in the US about 50 years ago to really look after minority businesses. And now we're the leader in supply diversity. We have the largest database of verified Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander businesses. And we work across the government, corporate and not-for-profit sectors to really try and foster Indigenous engagement.
Just in the last 5 years or so, I have seen a real growth and a real boom, particularly in the fashion industry, the food industry when it comes to Indigenous businesses. What are the sectors that are becoming a boom for Indigenous communities?
You're right. We've really seen a boom in the last couple of years, particularly from organisations who are looking to engage with genuine Indigenous businesses. I think on the back of the Black Lives Matter movement, we're seeing a lot of organisations who are really trying to use their platforms to drive social change. As you mentioned, fashion. I think there are a lot of misconceptions about the Indigenous business sector, and a lot of people think of us around doing business such as catering or cultural awareness training or the things that are particularly associated with entertainment, but as you pointed out, we are so much more diverse than that. We've really got our foot in political advisories, manufacturing, drone technology, AI, so the list just goes on. It's a really exciting time.
And are you seeing that continue to expand with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people going into businesses that, to borrow your term, I guess might have been unexpected in the past?
Absolutely. I mean, we have nearly 4,000 businesses on our database, and they are representing amazing diverse industries, and as I said, manufacturing, drone technology, everything you can think of. And I think, we talk about if you can see it, if you can believe it, and I think we really need to have more success stories of people in business, and that really helps open the doors.
Talk to us about this. Why is there this surge? Why this sudden surge over the last few years? What's happened?
Well, I think business for us is really an economic empowerment tool, and you've seen, particularly with the wave of COVID, a lot of uncertainty with employment. I would say that more people are feeling empowered to start their own businesses, and they're seeing the opportunities there. Certainly, our members in the last financial year alone spent $2.3 billion with our Indigenous businesses. So it's definitely a booming industry. What we'd like to see now is working with organisations on how they can broaden opportunities across supply chain. So instead of thinking about Indigenous businesses in quite siloed areas, looking at how they can broaden that. I think the opportunity for Indigenous businesses is really being willing to step up and work with those organisations, and because they're doing amazing things in their businesses, but I think there's sometimes that reluctance because they don't necessarily think they're big enough or successful enough. But what we're seeing from organisations is they actually want to partner with smaller Indigenous businesses and help them grow.
And is that something that you're hoping to do with Supply Nation, is to do more of that, I guess, facilitation between mainstream Australian businesses and the Indigenous business sector?
Absolutely. We're working really closely with corporate organisations and government as well to really educate around what some of the opportunities are around First Nation businesses, but also when you look at the supply chain, how organisations can be much more adaptable. And so doing things like helping a business grow. I had a great meeting with the CEO of Australia Post on Friday and talking about some of the opportunities to really integrate more Indigenous businesses, and not just the bigger businesses, but how they can actually integrate and give more startup opportunities.
Jodie, you're new to this position. What would you like to see achieved, at the end of your term, which obviously will not be that soon, but
Well, I
would
hope
you
not.
like to?
I hope not. I think there is amazing potential for the Indigenous business sector. I would like to see more Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people going into businesses. I think we need to have more of our people sitting around corporate boardrooms and wielding power, positions of influence, and I think that is achieved through business. I think organisations who are really committed for Indigenous engagement, again, looking at how they can infuse Indigenous procurement as an everyday norm. So not looking at just doing things through the reconciliation action plans, but looking at how they can genuinely engage on a day-to-day basis. I think globally as well, there's tremendous opportunity for us to really broaden our global footprint. We've recently launched our Export Nation program, and we're working quite closely with Austrade and DFAT, and we're actually going to be taking a First Nations delegation over to the US next month to look at how we can help share knowledge around reconciliation and also business journeys.
Great.
Yeah, great. Well, big,
Fantastic,
big agenda that you've got ahead of you. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Jodie Taylor there, CEO of Supply Nation.